Welcome to this DaVinci Resolve Fusion tutorial. In this tutorial, we're basically going to be using camera tracking to track our footage, bring it into a 3D program, change whatever assets we need to change, bring it back into Fusion so we can create a new look. So basically in this tutorial, we're going to be going from this standard kind of boring footage to something a little more exciting that we can use in our projects. And I'm going to break this down into 3 parts just to keep them fairly short. Plus I've got a busy weekend, but part 1 is going to be basically going from our standard footage, creating masks so we can swap out our sky. We're also going to be adding a kind of like a little halo glow, so it looks like our sun is shining through a little more. And we're also going to be going over camera tracking. So in this episode, we will also be tracking this footage. And towards the end, we will export it all. So in part 2, we can use it in Blender. And in Blender, we're going to create some assets. So like here in this demo, I've just got some ribbons blown in the trees. We're going to be creating these or whatever you want to create within Blender. And we're going to bring it back into Fusion once we do that. So part 3 is going to be bringing it back into Fusion, adding our assets, and then the one part that is not going to be free is going to be adding our smoke trails off of our actress, because that's going to be using optical flow in the vector warp, which is only available in the studio version. So you'll be able to follow along with everything else if you have everything that's free other than this smoke piece. And then we will do our final look to get the final look of our little project here. Now for members, I am going to give you guys our actress footage, our sky footage, and I'll also give you our smoke footage. So if you're a member, go ahead and go to that post and look for those assets, download them, and they'll be available for you. So let's get started. So in order to do this, we're going to create a brand new Fusion project. So let's jump into edit mode. Up here, I'm going to select new Fusion project, and I'm just going to make this say 4 seconds. Let's create it. Let's drag it into our timeline. And we're going to click on it and jump into Fusion. So the first thing I want to do is bring my media assets in. So I'm going to bring in our actress and I'm going to bring in our sky. And what we want to do is we want to create masks that we're going to be using for the rest of our footage. So for our sky, we want to create a mask of the sky so we can mask or matte that out and replace it. And I also want to create a mask or matte around our actress here so it's not interfering with our tracking, because we want to track the movement of this camera. We don't care about the movement of our actress here. And this definitely will interfere with our track. So to start working on our sky, let's go ahead and add a bitmap. And we're going to go from our media into our bitmap, and let's select our blue channel. And on our blue channel, I just want to crunch it up enough to start getting our sky in there without completely destroying these trees. And this will be fairly good enough. If I really wanted to, I would come in here and rotoscope these trees out, because you can see they've got some blue going on to them, and it's not going to be perfect in our bitmap, but it's going to be good for what we're trying to do here. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments to get rid of as much as we can without bringing that sky back in. And our sky's starting to come back in, but I don't care. We're going to create a couple garbage mats to deal with that. So now that we've got our bitmap and it looks pretty decent, let's go ahead and add a matte control. So I'm going to add a matte control node, and I'm going to go from our bitmap into our background. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a garbage matte to get rid of all of this stuff right here. So on our matte control, I'm going to go ahead and grab a polygon node, and I'm going to input that into our garbage matte right here on our matte control, which is the gray triangle. And on our polygon, I'm going to go ahead and just create a quick little mask around these trees in the mountains. So if we look at our matte control now, we've got a garbage matte going on around those little things in the mountains, but we are obviously going to have to keyframe this. So let's go to the very end. And let's grab our little mountains here, and I'm going to hide our additional. I want to make sure I bring that back down and over. And let's make sure that's not covering our sky anywhere. And it may be right here. Let's just double check. And that's good. And then I want to get rid of all this top stuff up here. So all I have to really do is bring in another polygon. And I'm going to input this into our white solid matte. On this polygon, just kind of draw across this top so I can get rid of all that stuff. Make sure it covers everything, and we're good to go. I can even bring this down a little more if I wanted to. So now we have a matte for our sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this stuff, hit Control G to group it, and hit F2 to rename it. I'm going to name this Mask Sky. So we've got our mask for the sky. And the next mask I want to make is around our actress itself, because when we track, we don't want all those clothes and her movement interfering with our camera track of our camera movement on the ground. So in order to do this, let's go ahead and grab a magic mask. And we're going to go from our media to our input of our magic mask. Let's go ahead and double this up so we can see the two. And on our magic mask, I'm going to add our actress here. Just kind of draw around, get her in there. And then of course I want to get rid of some of this stuff, so I can hit my Alt key to minus and get rid of it, but that's too much. So we can go over here and select better. And then re-add some of this stuff. And again, I don't need it perfect because I'm not creating a mask of her. You'll see here in a second what I'm trying to do. But I do definitely want to make sure I'm getting all these shadows. So I'm going to add all these shadows in to make sure I'm getting those pieces. And for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and hit my Alt key and get rid of everything that is outside of her. So we are not accidentally tracking anything. So once we do that, we're going to go ahead and hit track forward. And once we got our track, we're going to add something else so we can kind of blow this matte up a little bit. So first, for this to be a matte, we need to go ahead and add a bitmap. And we're going to go from out of our magic mask into our bitmap. And let's look at our bitmap, and there we go. So first, I'm just going to kind of raise these levels so I'm getting a nice clean matte. After our bitmap, I'm going to add a matte control and go from our bitmap into the input of our matte control. And on our matte control, first thing I want to do is crank my expand. I'm going to expand that up, and then I'm going to take my blur and I'm going to crank my blur. So now we've got a pretty hefty mask going around her. So when we track, it's not interfering with any of that stuff. And if I want to take my threshold, I can make my threshold a little tighter, going in either direction, so we make sure we're not tracking anything in that area. Once I do that, I'm going to hit Control G on all these nodes, hit F2, and rename to Mask Actress. So now we've got our two masks, so we can go ahead and move on with the rest of our stuff. So first, let's go ahead and add our sky. So we're going to grab a merge, and we're going to take our main actress footage and put that into the foreground. Take our sky, and we're going to put it into the background. If we look at our merge, we still see nothing. So we're going to take the mask of our sky and then put that into our effect mask. And on our merge, we're going to go to settings, apply mask inverted. So now we've got our sky in the back. So now in order to get the look of our sky, we need to go ahead and change our media. So if I go to our media, go to the image, we can trim the in and out to get it exactly where I want, but we can't quite see. So I'm going to grab a transform node, place it behind our media. In our media, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And I'm going to raise it till I can no longer see the ground. Let's go back to our media, change location to where we want it. So let's say we want it about there, but I want to bring this down to our horizon a little more. So I'm going to go back to our transform. I'm going to scale it up a little more, and I'm going to bring this down. So now if we play, we've kind of got the look we're looking for with this sky and everything. Now I do see we've got some of this blue coming through a little bit. So if we double click on our little matte sky here, we can go to our matte control and we can play with the blur a little bit. And if we zoom in on our matte control, we can come here and we can use this contract and expand to contract and expand the footage. We can blur it up a little bit to bring that in. And I realize it's cutting off some of these, and that's why I said in footage like this, you would realistically have to rotoscope that stuff out correctly, just because how the coloring is. So let's refine this a little better to get rid of some of that blueness that's going on. And that's good. So there we go. We've got a new sky. All right, next thing we want to do is kind of make the sky a little more realistic, because this sun is going to kind of wash out some of this stuff in here. So an easy way to do that is we can add another merge. We're going to bring this footage to the background. We're going to bring our transform sky to the foreground. And on this transform sky, we're going to add a blur. If we go to our blur mode, we can blur up the size. So if we look at what's going on, we can blur this up quite a bit. And then we can grab an ellipse. We can mask that off. Bring our ellipse over to where our sun is. And we can change the size. So now if we look at this, we've got this color thing going on, which I know looks odd. But if we go to our ellipse, we can soft edge it out. So now we've got that kind of washing out the hillside right there. So now that we've got our look fairly done, now it's time to track. So we can actually jump back into our original footage, and we're going to add a camera tracker. We're going to go from our original footage into our camera tracker. So if you look at our camera tracker and we preview, we can bring this down. Let's bring this down to 0.024. And let's go ahead and auto track. And you can see right now our actress is interfering with our tracks. So we can reset this, and we're going to bring our masked actress into our camera tracker. So in order to connect this to our camera tracker, it's not going to connect how it is, because I realized I kind of did this backwards. So a matte control is not going to connect directly to our camera tracker. We need it to be a bitmap. So let's go ahead and ungroup these. You just right click, hit ungroup, and I'm going to switch these around. Go to our matte control. From our matte control into our bitmap. And we're going to have the same exact result. We just have our bitmap last, which is an actual mask. So now we can bring this into our camera tracker. So let's go ahead and regroup these. Rename it to mask actress. But before we bring this in, another problem we're going to have is if we look at our bitmap again, our bitmap is set with our mask on the inside, which means our camera tracker is only going to track inside that mask. So if we go to our camera tracker and I hit the auto track button, you can see it's only tracking inside that mask. So if we go to our bitmap and hit invert, go back to our camera tracker. Let's reset, hit our auto track. Now you can see we're tracking outside and it's not tracking our actress. So I just wanted to show you some of these things because they pop up and you get confused. So I want to show you workarounds for some of that stuff. So now we've got that, then I'm going to go to our solve and I'm just going to select solve. And we're probably going to get a horrible rate. Actually, not bad at all. We got a solve rate of 0.19994. So that is a pretty decent solve. But if we needed to go in here and clean anything up that we didn't want, say if I didn't want some of these things on the shadows right here, I could highlight them and just go here and hit delete and delete any bad tracks. So now we have got our track. And the main things with this I'm concerned about is I really don't care too much about this back here, but I do want my trees and I do want some of this ground because we're going to be putting stuff on these trees. So I really like these points being here because we'll be able to use them as reference points in Blender. I don't, however, like some of these that are back here that are blue. So I'm going to select these and hit delete. Select these and hit delete. And then I'm going to hit solve again. So now that we've got our new solve, we're going to go ahead and go over to our export. Go to our scene. We're going to select unaligned and we're just going to select an origin. And I'm just going to select a random point and hit set from section. So that's going to be our origin point. And for our orientation on our ground, I'm going to select some ground stuff here and set from selection. Once I do that, I'm going to hit aligned, and then I'm going to go down to our export options, and we want our camera, we want our point cloud. Right now we do want our ground plane. We do want a renderer generated, and we'll go ahead and grab the image plane just in case we need it in Blender, and animate camera. And once I hit export, we have all these crazy new notes. So if we look at our camera track render, we can see we've got our track. And to change some of this stuff, we can go to our point cloud and we can change the size and we can change them to points so we can actually see them. So if I go to our merge, you can see all of our points. Now, in order to export these points so we can actually see them, we're going to add a few extra nodes. So let's move our ground plane, and we're going to be using this point cloud to replicate shapes onto our little points. So let's add a replicate 3D node. And we're going to go from our point cloud into our destination of our replicate. And then we're going to add a little sphere here and input this into our input. And on our sphere, let's go ahead and change our size to 0.5 for right now. And we're going to change it to an actual sphere. And then from our replicate node, we're going to go into our merge 3D. And if I go to our point cloud and select make renderable, you're going to see them all. So now we can go back to our shape node and we can change the radius. Bring them down to something a little more manageable. So now we've got our little shapes replicating actual geometry instead of a point cloud onto our camera tracker. And you can go into your shape, and if you want to change the color, you can change the color to whatever you want, but we're just going to leave it as is. And to be able to export all this, we need to add an FBX Exporter, or you can export it as a Limbic if you want. But we're going to go ahead and export this to 3D tutorials, exported desert scene 01. And under our settings right here, I'm going to leave it on FBX binary, version default. The frame rate is 24, and that's the frame rate of our scene here. Under scale units by, I'm going to put this to 100. And I want my geometry. I don't need lights. I want my camera. I don't have a set render range, and reduce constant keys I'm going to leave on just in case we have some glitching in between some of these shapes. And from here, I'm going to go from my merge 3D into my FBX exporter. So in order to render this, all I need to do is go to Fusion, select render all saves, but it's not there. It's grayed out. It should be white. But to fix this, all you have to do is uncheck this show toolbar. You can recheck it again, and it's going to pop up render all savers. It'll be there again. So render all savers. So once your FBX is exported, you can go ahead and disconnect it. You can delete it if you want, or you can keep it. But we have a FBX file in our file system waiting for Blender, waiting for us to import that FBX. So in the next tutorial, we'll be importing that into Blender and creating stuff to re-export out to finish up our scene. So I will see you